brethren. Today we have another lesson. We will continue on the daily until we know it. Last week we went as far as Elijah, isn't it? We went as far as we want to see all these prophets in the Old Testament and then go even in the New Testament until we go to our time. Then we will finish, isn't it? Yeah. So let's go ahead now. We are with another prophet. We saw Elijah, how on Mount Carmel he made that altar, and because the prophets of Baal did not know the time, the appointed times which God visits us as he had declared, isn't it? And they were only praying every minute, lashing and cutting themselves, but God didn't answer. God answered Elijah when he prayed at the 9th hour, or at the evening sacrifice, or evening oblation. Those are the words that the Bible used for that time, isn't it? Now let's go to another prophet, Daniel, the man of prayer, Daniel. Yeah? He was a man of prayer, isn't it? We saw Elijah, how he won, and now we are seeing Daniel. Let's go to Daniel. So we go to Daniel chapter 9. See how he was praying. Start from verse 20.
Verse 20.
Yes.
And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel,
right,
and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God, for the holy mountain of my God,
right,
yes, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, I, seeing in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation.
What time was Daniel praying? The time of the evening oblation, or the evening sacrifice time. So we might say Daniel and Elijah were together, isn't it? Yes. They knew the times when God visits. That's the time Daniel was. So we might as well know that he was also praying at the 3rd hour. Because 3rd hour is in the morning at 9 o'clock. And then the 9th hour is in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. We saw that when we were studying the other day, isn't it? Now let's see what the angels did. What happened when in the 9th hour? The man Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, touched Daniel at the time of the evening oblation, or the time of the 9th hour, or the evening sacrifice. Right? What did he say?
And he informed me and talked with me and said, "Oh Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill in understanding."
What time did Gabriel come to Daniel? To give him skill and understanding. You want skill and understanding. You want to understand the Bible. There you go. What time did Daniel receive that? At the 9th hour. Why particularly? He didn't come any other time. He came right on time to show how sacred that time is. You understand? Right? And what did he say?
At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth.
So we saw Daniel at the 9th hour. When he was praying, Gabriel was sent. And what was Gabriel saying to Daniel?
At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am now come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved.
Did you hear that from Gabriel? At the beginning of thy supplication, when he just started to say, "Our Father, who art in heaven," what time was that? The 9th hour. Do you see how important that time was? And it caused even God to send the mighty angel Gabriel to Daniel, because it was the time when God promised he will visit and give wisdom and understanding to his people, isn't it? And let's hear a quotation from Sister White on Prophets and Kings, PK 541, where it starts with calmness.
With calmness, he performed his duties as chief of the princes. And at the hour of prayer, he went to his chamber.
Did you hear? At the hour of prayer. You understand? Do we have an hour of prayer? Which is the 9th hour. We saw it in Acts chapter 3. When Peter and John went into the temple at the hour of prayer. You understand? Now, that same hour of prayer, Daniel kept it. That's the evening oblation time. Or that's the hour for the sacrifice, isn't it? And that hour, even when the animals have been blotted by the cross, that hour is still there. You understand? And what?
With calmness, he performed his duties as chief priest of the princes.
So you know he was a chief priest of the princes in Babylon, isn't it? But he did not forget the hour of prayer. And what happened?
And at the hour of prayer, he went to his chamber, and with his windows open toward Jerusalem, in accordance with his usual custom.
That's his usual custom. That's Sister White telling us that. Yeah? These are the men of prayer. You cannot be a man of prayer without this time of worship. This hour of prayer which all the saints had.
In accordance with his usual custom, he offered his petition to the God of heaven.
Was it his usual custom? Let's see on Daniel chapter 6. Was it his usual custom? Daniel chapter 6 verse 18. You remember when they were told not to worship any god, not to kneel for any god in Babylon for 30 days. What time did he go to pray? Let's go.
Verse 18. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he
why was he thrown in that den of lions? Because he opened the curtains and he worshipped. We have been given that verse by PK, isn't it? Yes. PK says at this time, his custom was to go and worship God at this time, isn't it? Now let's go to, we have seen Daniel. Do you want any more about Daniel? We saw Ezra, we saw Moses, last week we saw Adam, yeah? We saw Abraham, we saw Isaac, we saw Jacob, we saw Moses and Elijah. Now we are seeing Daniel, yeah? Now, next after Daniel, we have proof enough Daniel was keeping these times, isn't it? Now, next after Daniel, let's go to another prophet, Ezra, right? Let's go to Ezra 9. You remember when the Israelites were not allowed to marry outside Israel, isn't it? Now they had gone out to marry strange wives. And this came to the prophet who was officiating at that time. The prophet was Ezra. He was told this has happened. But he did not just go to pray. He waited for the time of prayer, isn't it? Now let's go to verse 5.
Verse 5. At the evening sacrifice,
right,
I arose up from my heaviness.
Now, start where it starts in verse 4.
Then were assembled unto me everyone that trembled at the words of the God of Israel.
Because that had happened,
because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat astonished until the evening sacrifice.
Right.
And at the evening sacrifice...
Do you see what is waiting for the 9th hour?
Yes.
At the 9th hour, what happened?
I arose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, I fell upon my knees and spread out my hands unto the Lord my God.
You see, he's got even a good posture, as we have seen in the previous studies. Fell upon his knees, spread forth his hands, and started worshipping the God of heaven, the God of Abraham and Jacob and Isaac. This is how he is worshipped. You understand? So Ezra was keeping the 9th hour, isn't it? He had to ordain again that time and call all the elders and everyone at that time in chapter 10, the next chapter. 10, I think it's verse 14 if you want.
Let now our rulers of all the congregation stand.
He had all now to issue a commandment. Everyone now, let them come, yeah?
And let them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times.
These are the appointed times, the 3rd hour, 9th hour. Let everyone, the rulers and those who had done this mischief, taken strange wives, let them come so that we seek for pardon of that sin, isn't it?
Let now the rulers of our congregation stand, and let them all which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times, and with them the elders of every city and the judges thereof, until the fierce wrath of our God for this matter be turned from us.
When were they seeking for this pardon? At appointed times. You understand? That should create an awakening in those who say they are men of prayer, men of God. I've heard people with such names, isn't it? Those are the times. And let's go to Prophets and Kings again at page 620. Want to see whether Sister White supports what does she say more about what was happening there at the time of the evening sacrifice? What is it? It starts at the time. Point 3.
At the time of the evening sacrifice,
right?
Ezra arose.
Ezra arose.
And once more rending his garment and his mantle, he fell upon his knees and unburdened his soul in supplication to heaven. Spreading out his hands unto the Lord, he exclaimed, "O my God, I am ashamed and blush to lift my face to thee, my God, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespass is grown up unto the heavens."
So at the time of the evening sacrifice is the time which Ezra was keeping as well, isn't it? Sister White is supporting. What does it say when it says this was the beginning?
This was the beginning of a wonderful reformation.
Right?
With infinite patience.
So how did they begin that reformation?
By discarding
with the appointed times.
Amen.
Seeking pardon of sins at the appointed times. And you are talking about reformation. What time how do we start that reformation? Appointed times. So that reformation without these appointed times is deemed to fail, isn't it? And this was the beginning of the, and go again to 623 where it says more than 2,000 years.
More than 2,000 years
right?
Have passed since Ezra prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord and to do it. Yet the lapse of time has not lessened the influence of his pious example.
He declared a pious example. What is the pious example? Seeking pardon of sins at the 3rd hour and 9th hour. Appointed times where you are together with God on those 2 times.
Amen.
Yeah? Where he even sent Gabriel to Daniel to give him wisdom at the appointed time. Not any time, but at the appointed time. Yeah? Now, we have seen this other prophet, isn't it? We could have gone into all prophets in the Old Testament, but let's jump into the New Testament. Start with the time when Christ came. And many people say he came to nullify everything, isn't it? We will read where they missed the point, isn't it? And let's see with the Messiah now, the daily with the Messiah. Go to Patriarchs and Prophets, page 352, where it says the daily service consisted of the morning and evening.
The daily service consisted of the morning and evening burnt offering.
Right?
The offering of sweet incense on the golden altar.
That's what it was in the Old Testament, yeah?
And the special offerings for individual sins. And there were also offerings for Sabbaths, new moons, and special feasts.
Do you see these offerings? These animals were for Sabbaths, for new moons, and for what?
Special feasts.
Special feasts.
Every morning and evening, a lamb of a year old was burnt upon the altar.
Right? Even on a Sabbath. Yeah? Do you understand? So, when we have to take the lamp off, we take it, no more lamp burnt on Sabbath, but the Sabbath time remains. No more lamp as a burnt offering on new moon, but the new moon time remains. No more burnt offering on a feast on the Passover, but the time remains. Do you understand? Now let's hear when the new dispensation. This word I've heard it many times. We are now in the new dispensation. This what? Let's read it. Where we get that from, isn't it? Go to the Self Ages there, 652. where he's saying Christ was standing at the point of transition. And this is a quotation which many have fallen behind, thinking everything has been nullified. Listen to that.
Christ was standing at the point of transition between two economies, and they had two great festivals.
Right. At the transition between New Testament and Old Testament, he was at the center. Now we are transiting, isn't it?
Yeah.
He,
the spotless Lamb of God,
right,
was about to present himself as a sin offering, that he would thus bring to an end the system of types and ceremonies,
right,
that for 4,000 years had pointed to his death.
Right. The system of types and ceremonies. What was it pertaining to? To everything of the animal sacrifice. You understand? He now has taken the place of the animal. That's what happened.
Yes.
So that year, the ceremony was done, but with him as a lamb.
Yes.
New Testament, they did not stop. They did that ceremony, but did not use the animal. Who did they use?
Christ.
This verse is the one that people say they stopped everything at the cross. But they stopped the lamb. But what did they use? Christ's blood.
Yes. Amen.
On that transition. Now he demonstrated the Lord's Supper. Is it? Yes. On that same time? To say they now take the bread and wine. He instituted the Lord's Supper. And then at that very time, instead of them using the animal, they used him. Did they stop?
No.
They did something. What did they do? They killed Christ.
Yes.
And they used the blood of Christ and the body of Christ as bread and wine. Is it?
Yes.
Did it nullify the time?
No.
When Christ was there, he demonstrated what the new dispensation should do. They should take, that's why on the 14th day evening, soon after he had demonstrated the Lord's Supper, he was arrested. What was he teaching the disciples who were Christians at that time? To take the Lord's Supper. When? At that time. Did the disciples take the lamb? Did they eat the lamb?
Yes.
Did they eat the lamb? Did they? They ate the Lord's Supper. And who was their lamb? Christ. This is the quotation which has nullified the statutes. They do not know that Christ actually demonstrated how to keep that statute in the new dispensation.
Amen.
In the new dispensation, he showed them the bread and wine. For there was no lamb to kill anymore. For the lamb, now we needed the blood of Christ.
Amen.
Huh?
Yes.
Right. You finish that quote.
As he ate the Passover with his disciples.
Did he?
Yes.
Did he keep the Passover?
Yes.
But how did he keep it with the disciples? By eating the bread and wine.
As he ate the Passover with his disciples, he instituted in its place the service that was to be the memorial of his great sacrifice.
In its place,
Amen.
in the place where the lamb was being killed, he instituted that they should now start eating the bread and wine because there was no lamb on that feast for these disciples. The lamb, those who refused that he was the Christ, they were ready to kill the lamb.
Yes.
But these Christians, which were 12 in number, did not kill the lamb. What did they do? They ate bread and wine, washed each other's feet, and what time did they do that? In the evening. In the evening. Are you on Desire of Ages, page 652? Now, because people don't understand this text, they nullify everything. But they do not understand that the same text is showing them how to keep the Lord's Supper, how to keep the Passover. How do we keep the Passover? We don't eat the animal. We eat the bread and wine. What time? At the appointed time. At the evening, as it was with the old dispensation. What does the new dispensation do? They eat the Lord's Supper. But they don't eat the lamb, but they have got the blood of Christ who was killed on that time. So these first Christians did not eat the lamb. They had Christ already with him. So what they did was to take the bread and wine. These 12. They did not eat that lamb which was there in the temple. The priests were ready to kill that lamb which ran away, isn't it? But these disciples were not eating that lamb. What were they having? Bread and wine. Because it's now the new dispensation. At that time. It's what Sister White says. Yes. Right? Have you finished it? Let's go to another quote. Okay, go to Desire of Ages then. Page 756. Desire of Ages. We are seeing this daily in the new dispensation. When the loud cry, when it says 756, when the loud cry.
When the loud cry, it is finished,
right,
from the lips of Christ.
Right.
The priests were officiating in the temple.
Listen to what Desire of Ages says. What was happening? The priests were not with Christ. Christ was only with the disciples when they ate the Lord's Supper, isn't it? And when Christ now was at the cross, isn't it? And there were now the priests in the temple about to slaughter the lamb for the 9th hour, for the evening sacrifice. This is what Sister White is saying. Right, start again.
When the loud cry, it is finished, came from the lips of Christ. The priests were officiating in the temple. It was the hour of the evening sacrifice.
Right. What time was it? When he said, it is finished. What time was it?
Evening sacrifice.
Evening sacrifice, or 9th hour. Do you understand? Now, why was he doing all that? The whole day he's on the cross. Now, I need that daily part 2, page 8. Daily part 2, page 8. Start where it says, as the high priest was ready to slay.
The high priest was ready to slay the lamb. The daily typical service at the 9th hour or 3 p.m., which pointed to Jesus. The antitypical lamb. The veil of the temple between the holy and the most holy place, where the high priest was forbidden to enter except once a year, on the occasion of the Day of Atonement,
right,
was rent by the hand of omnipotence.
Right.
And the typical sacrifice escaped. He was shown the transfer of the daily from earth to heaven.
Here was shown the transfer of the daily from the earth to the heaven. That's the veil which was rent in twain. What was it showing? No more earthly lamp is allowed. Which lamp now is allowed? Christ. Did they change the time?
No.
If we say Christ was now the high priest, and also Christ was the lamb which was slaughtered, isn't it? Now his blood is the one that we need, isn't it? Not the blood of the lambs. You understand? So if we are talking about the blood of Christ, we are named with blood of Christ. When was that blood on the earthly sanctuary? In the daily time, isn't it? In the time of the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. You can't talk about the blood of Christ anyhow. The blood of Christ, when you talk about it, you are talking about the time the blood was shed. It was the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. That's where we find the blood of Christ, isn't it? Right. And go to GC, Great Controversy, page 420.
And what was done in time,
right,
in the ministration of the earthly sanctuary,
right,
is done in reality in the ministration of the
Amen. Amen. Now, listen. There is nothing that changed. Nothing changed. Do you understand? What only changed was the lamp.
Yes.
what was done in time? What were they doing in time?
In the administration of the earthly
What
sanctuary.
were they doing in time? On a Sabbath, killing the lamb.
Yes.
What do? We eat the bread and wine. Every day, continually, in the morning, third hour, there was a lamb. Instead, what do we have? We have the lamb, which is the bread and wine, at the third hour. And the ninth hour. What was done in time is done in anti-time.
Reality in the administration of the heavenly
The
sanctuary.
only good change is that we have no lamb, but we have a lamb, which is Christ.
Amen.
That's the only difference. But what was done in type is still done in. That's why even on the Day of Atonement in 1844, well after the cross, God was still talking about the Day of Atonement, where Christ went into the Holy of Holies. If Christ went into the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement, which is 1844, on the 22nd day of October 1844, Christ still had to go in the Holy of Holies. So what stopped it after that? Huh? What stopped this sanctuary ministration after 1844? Did Christ die in 1844?
No.
Christ died in 1831. Yeah. But by 1844, Christ is still going in the Holy of Holies in 1844 on the Day of Atonement. Don't you see that the feasts were still there?
Yes.
Don't you see that the ministration of the daily was still there?
Yes.
Don't you see that what was done in type was still there?
Yes.
So after 1844, what has happened? Deception of the highest. And yet we were warned, unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary, the people who could have an excuse are those who lived before 1844, because this had been nullified by the beast. But those were after 1844, that's why they say, blessed is he, in Daniel chapter 12, that will live after 1,335 days. You have those days in Daniel chapter 12. 1,335 days is after 1844. Blessed are those. Why? They have the daily back. They have the feast, the statutes which were plotted by the beast in dark ages back. They are in the blessed days.
Yes.
Amen.
Huh? Truly speaking, if we have a prophet up to 1844 and up to 1915 we still had a prophet. So what happened after that? What happened after that? What really happened after that? Now, this is what made us stop everything, because we have no voice of God. Now, what was done in time, GC?
And what was done in time, in the ministration of the earthly sanctuary, is done in reality in the ministration of the heavenly sanctuary.
Right?
After his ascension, our Savior began his work as our high priest.
Right. So let's go to another quote from Sister White. I don't know, I will give you. Quote it if you want. Capital S point L point F point H point page 96. Right. I'll give you my quote if you want to start reading from there. We want to hear there, yeah?
Christ's crucifixion on the cross,
Yeah?
the rending of the veil on Friday,
There was a rending of that veil when he died, isn't it? On Friday, yeah?
and his resting in the grave on the seventh day Sabbath.
On Sabbath, what did he do? He rested on the grave. Right?
His rending in the grave on the seventh day Sabbath signified the ending of the typical earthly temple ceremonies.
What was that signifying?
Ending of the typical earthly temple ceremonies.
This is the old dispensation. The earthly sanctuary was the old dispensation. But now we have a better sanctuary, which is in heaven.
Amen.
So we still have a sanctuary. Yeah? Uh-huh.
At that time,
At that time.
the Mosaic dispensation
Yeah?
with the presence of the holy Shekinah,
right?
the offering of the animal sacrifices,
Right?
and the Levitical priesthood
Right?
officially ended.
That ended. What ended? One, the killing of the lambs, the priesthood of Levites, the what?
Offering of the animal sacrifices,
The animal
and the
sacrifices,
Levitical priesthood
Levitical priesthood.
officially ended.
Those are the things that ended. The priests which were males, which were Levitical, ended. All that ended. It's not only the lambs that ended. It's the lamb, the offering of that lamb, the Levitical priesthood, all the earthly sanctuary ended. But it does not say we remain without a sanctuary. Where are we being transferred to? Let's hear that.
The Messiah's resurrection,
Right?
on the first day of the week,
Do you see?
the offering of the worship at Passover time in the heavenly courts.
Did we have a Passover time where we were offering? Go to Leviticus chapter 23, verse 11. Did we have a worship being offered on the week of the Passover?
Yes.
On the morrow after Sabbath, which is Sunday.
And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord.
So they brought all these fruits, first fruits, for the priest to wave it. Isn't it on Sunday? When?
On the morrow after the Sabbath.
It was on a Sunday.
Yes.
What was it preaching? The resurrection of Christ on a Sunday.
Amen.
Now, let's continue.
Amen.
Yeah?
The Messiah's resurrection,
Yeah?
on the first day of the week,
Right?
the offering of the worship at Passover time in the heavenly courts, on the morrow after the Sabbath, before the eternal Father, signalized the beginning of the heavenly sanctuary daily.
There is now a changeover from the earthly sanctuary to the heavenly sanctuary. So what are we doing in the new dispensation? We now have the same things that were done in the type, but are now still being done when? In the antitype.
Amen.
We still have a sanctuary. They had a sanctuary there. We have a sanctuary which is in heaven. Yeah? They were taking the blood of the bulls there. We are taking the blood of Christ. What time? The same time that they were doing in the old.
Amen.
Right? And
It signalized the beginning of the heavenly sanctuary daily, morning and evening.
morning
Temple set
and
in the
evening.
holy place.
And even when you say unto 2,300, in other versions it says unto 2,300 morning and evenings. So these are counted by God.
Yes.
They were counted from 457 BC to 1844, the mornings and the evenings. Now, this was transferred to the heavenly sanctuary. In 1844 now, we saw these, they have to be brought back, isn't it? How are they brought back? By us now taking the Sabbath first back from Sunday, right? The daily back to the 3rd hour and 9th hour. The Passover back to, because these are the things that the beast blotted at the dark ages. And what?
While our high priest was offering the daily morning and evening in
Right?
heaven,
Right?
the apostles were offering the daily morning and evening in the temple on earth.
Do you see what was happening in the temple of earth? Go, let's see in the temple of earth, where they, in the new dispensation, where they go into the temple at those times to have the daily. Acts chapter 3, verse 1.
Verse 1.
Verse 1.
Now Peter and John
Right?
went up together into the temple at the hour of prayer,
Right?
in the 9th hour.
Do you see that? So what was happening in heaven? The priest is also entering, officiating the daily with his blood.
Yes.
And what was happening on earth? The disciples going in the temple to officiate the bread and wine.
Amen.
That's why on the day of Pentecost, yeah, go to Acts chapter 2, on the 2 verse 12. When they were starting to speak in tongues, they had already finished taking wine.
Verse 12.
People were saying they were drunk. They've taken new wine because to them it was a new wine because the disciples were taking it. Right?
And they were all amazed
Right?
and were in doubt, saying one to another,
Yeah.
What meaneth this?
What means this?
Others mocking said, These men are full of new wine.
Do you see those who were mocking? They were the ones not taking the daily.
Yes.
So Peter is telling them, no. Listen.
But Peter, standing up with the 11,
Yeah.
lifted up his voice and said unto them,
Right.
Ye men of Judea,
Yeah.
and all ye that were at Jerusalem,
Right.
be this known unto you and hearken unto my words. For these are not drunken.
They
as
are
ye
not
suppose.
drunk because they were not taking this bread and wine. Like people who are laughing these days. Oh, they are taking bread and wine. Oh, look at them. They are taking wine. But they were laughing like what you are doing, isn't it?
For these men are not drunken as ye suppose.
Yeah?
Seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day.
So what time were they taking this new wine? It was the 3rd hour. And we saw at the 9th hour in Acts chapter 2, they were taking the daily. They went in the hour of prayer, which is the 9th hour. And what the quotation there I gave you is saying, Christ enters the Holy of Holies. What does he do in the 3rd hour and in the 9th hour? Right, repeat. Right?
While our high priest
Right?
was offering daily, morning and evening
Yeah.
in heaven,
Uh-huh.
the apostles were offering the daily, morning and evening in the temple on earth.
Do you see? So we are together. On the 3rd hour, what is our high priest doing?
He's offering.
And what are we doing?
We are offering.
Taking bread and wine.
And the 9th hour, what is the high priest doing? And what are we doing?
Taking bread and wine.
This is how to walk with Christ.
Amen.
Whithersoever he goeth.
Amen.
And
While our high priest was offering the daily, morning and evening in heaven, the apostles were offering the daily, morning and evening in the temple on earth.
right?
The emblems of his broken body and split blood,
Right.
the bread and the wine, from house to house.
From house to house. We saw it on Acts chapter 2, verse 46. They were breaking the bread from house to house, isn't it?
9 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. This is the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. Yeah? Once now we start this righteousness by faith, we will walk like Abraham.
Amen.
We will be justified like Abraham.
Amen.
He was called a man of God.
Amen.
Daniel was mostly loved.
Yes.
Ezra was loved. Elijah demonstrated the times of God. And he says, in the last days, he will raise who? Elijah, who will repair all this breach which was destroyed in the dark ages.
Amen.
Do you understand the daily?
Amen.
Yeah? This is what the beast took away in the dark ages. So that you and me do not enjoy worshiping God. But we will enjoy. Yeah? We will enjoy primitive godliness. Evangeli lakudala. Evangeli old time religion. That is it. You do yourself a favor and catch on to the old time religion. That's sanctification, righteousness by faith. Yeah? Now let's look at these are the times that the beast took off. Yeah, he magnified himself in Daniel chapter 8, verse 11. He magnified himself. Who took this time? Daniel chapter 8, verse 11.
Verse 11. Yeah, he magnified himself, even to the prince of the host.
Right?
And by him, the daily sacrifice was taken away.
Right.
And the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
This sanctuary was cast. That's why it is asked. Unto how long? In verse 13. How long shall the vision of the daily? Yeah? And that the sanctuary be trodden down so that people just live with nothing. They just sleep and wake up anytime. The old dispensation, they woke up, washed, dressed, ready for the 3rd hour. They were ready for the 3rd hour because they wouldn't want to miss this time. And they were ready for the 9th hour. They wouldn't want to miss this time because it brought needed blessings to them. Let's go to, anyway, read for me ST November 1919 from this one.
The new law
The new law
of the men of sin.
of the men of sin.
Yes,
You know,
this
when
God's spirit.
in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, we saw the men of sin taking all these times out. in Daniel chapter 8, verse 11, we saw that he magnified himself and took the daily, isn't it? Now here he's just paraphrasing what this man of sin has. This new law of the man of sin, when he changed the times and laws, what happened?
Has its own spirit.
They have also their own spirit. Uh-huh.
And its own sacrifice.
And also they have their own sacrifice.
And its own feasts.
And they have their own feasts. Do they take the daily there? Yes. Do they take the feasts? They have their own feasts. When they changed Sabbath, they went to Sunday. When they changed Passover, they went. All the feasts were changed, substituted, and there was a new law of the man of sin. You understand? And then the other one, CEM.
We say this church has the right to change the ceremonials of the Old Testament.
Right. So this we'll find on Google. They say they have a right to change all the laws, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Mm. So they replaced the daily, isn't it? We saw in Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 that the daily was replaced. So anyway, SR, volume 2, page 131. When it comes to research, you have to research everything. So that you come up with an answer. Everything, you do not have binacles or creeds or what. You research everything like a hungry chicken. You know a hungry chicken? You go, you put it out there in the bush. It searches the whole bush for food. Page 131. The sanctuary. The sanctuary and the daily. You found it?
Yeah.
Right?
The sanctuary and the daily were replaced by the abomination.
Right. Do you see the Daniel chapter 11, verse 31? He had warned us that it was going to be replaced. Go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 31. Daniel chapter 11, verse 31 was a warning that this sanctuary was going to be replaced.
Verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part.
You see, we had a warning that the beast was going to change, isn't it? Arms shall stand what?
On his part.
All right.
And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength.
This sanctuary is the sanctuary of strength. Amen. It gives us strength. So Daniel saw it that they were going to pollute the sanctuary of strength.
And shall take away the daily sacrifice.
This daily sacrifice will be taken, so people will worship without strength. That's what Daniel saw it.
And they shall place the abomination.
Instead, what was placed on it? An abomination. Do they take the daily there? Yes, in wrong times. That's the abomination that maketh desolate. Right. And then go back to SR. SR, volume 2, page 131.
The sanctuary
and
the daily
were
replaced by the abomination.
Like what was said by Daniel 11, verse 31. So what replaced the daily? The abomination. When do you see the abomination stand in the holy place? Is it?
Yes.
So is this the abomination? Yes. Right.
The abomination must be some pagan religious institution. And that pagan doctrine is an abomination
that makes
to make
desolate. Yeah. It's a quotation, this one. So that's why people are worried. What time do you take this? What time do you take Lord's Supper? Because it's an abomination not to take on the right time. Yes. They worry what time do you go to camp meetings? Because it's an abomination to go on the wrong time. Yes. Because the abomination replaced the real one from God. Yeah. You understand? What time why don't you keep Passover? Because what happened? It was taken off. Instead, what was replaced? An abomination. Yeah? That maketh what? Desolate. And now people they don't even have the Passover. They don't even have the abomination. They have nothing. That's why I say you are believing nothing. You are believing nothing. At least the ones that are believing the pagan feast are better off. They have something to believe. but that you have nothing to believe. You're worse off. That's why God says you are neither hot nor cold. It's better for you to say, I do not know God, and someone will teach you about God, than to come and say, I know God, and when you are doing nothing. It's better to come up clear. Like the witch doctors of the time of Nebuchadnezzar, they declared clearly there is nothing that we know. Nothing. Daniel come and interpret nothing. No God will know this dream except the unknown God. Better to come up clear and be cold, and someone will make you hot.
Amen.
Than to be lukewarm, neither hot nor cold. You are nowhere. Nondescript. So here it says, a man, read on, it says, the man of sin took away God's appointed daily and replaced with the what? With a. Let's see here. Daniel chapter 8, we have seen it. It says, asking, how long shall this? Yeah? And unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be what? Replaced. That abomination has to be taken off, and the sanctuary has to be put in the right place.
Yes.
Isn't it? Now, go to daily part 1, page 4. And start where it says, notice the marginal rendering.
The marginal rendering of the text in Daniel 8:14.
Right?
Unto 2,300 days.
Right?
Margin says morning and evenings. Which means to say 2,300 morning sacrifices.
Unto 2,300 mornings and evening sacrifices.
Or 2,300 days or dailies.
Right?
Prophetic time.
In prophetic time.
2,300 years according to Ezekiel 4.
Right?
I have appointed each day for a year according to Ezekiel 4 verse 6.
Prophets and Kings, page 678. In the time of the end, PK 678.
In the time of the end, every divine institution is to be restored. The breach made in the law at the time of the Sabbath was changed by man is to be repaired.
Right? So in the time of the end, every divine institution should be brought back.
Amen.
Sister White has said that. Yeah? And
The breach made in the law at the time.
the breach,
Sabbath,
right?
breach made at the time when the Sabbath was changed by man
Right?
to be repaired.
Right?
God's remnant people standing before the world as reformers are to show that the law of God is the foundation of all enduring reform, that the Sabbath of the fourth commandment is to stand as a memorial of creation.
Right. So that quote again, SLFH, is now on page 97. Right.
1844.
Right, 1844.
In 1844,
In 1844,
after the end of the 2,300 years of
Right.
Daniel 8 verse 14, the restitution of true worship was begun.
do you hear what? The restitution of true worship in 1844 began.
begun.
Right?
It is to continue
And this is to continue.
until all things are restored
Until-
by the antitypical Elijah of Matthew 17.
All
verse 11.
things will be restored by the antitypical Elijah back.
Amen.
Amen.
So God promised that someone will come in the spirit of what?
Elijah.
To restore all things. Why were they not being restored before? Because someone hasn't come. But when someone comes, is the one. So he's promising that after Sister White, there was someone to come and restore all things.
Amen.
Right? Now, let's go to, I don't know whether we are still with power or we can begin it next time, but let's introduce it before we begin it. The daily now with God's people.
Amen.
We have passed on there,
Yes.
and we saw Christ never change the daily. It's only the animals that were changed, and now it's his body and the blood, isn't it? And the times were still there. Until 1844, we're still going in the Day of Atonement, the times were still there. They are still there. You understand? Now let's see the daily with God's people today.
Amen.
Right? I will just introduce so that next week we'll go over it straight smoothly, isn't it? Now the daily with God's people, Patriarchs and Prophets, page 153 and 154. That way say there are many who fail.
There are many who fail to understand the relation of faith and works.
There are many in our period today. It's the daily today, isn't it? There are many who fail to understand the what? The relationship between faith and works. Some want faith only, without works. And some want works only, without faith. But these two are related. Yeah? If ye, Abraham, if ye were...
They say, only believe in Christ and you are safe.
You see? Yeah?
You have nothing to do with keeping the law.
And some call themselves born again. Born again. That's it. I'm born again. But nothing to do with the works. Yeah?
But genuine faith will be manifest in obedience.
Right.
Said Christ to the unbelievers.
How do we see? How do we see that you have faith? Your obedience shows that you have faith.
Yes. If you were Abraham's children,
Right?
you would do the works of Abraham.
Yes. So don't go about Abrahaming everyone, Abraham, when you are not doing what Abraham was doing, isn't it? Now, if you are Abraham's seed, you will do the works of Abraham. It's John chapter 8, verse 39 that we're reading, isn't it? And
concerning the father of the faithful, the Lord declares,
right?
Abraham
Obeyed my voice.
and kept my charge,
Right?
my commandments, my statutes and my laws.
Do you see what he kept? He didn't just keep the Sabbath. He didn't just keep the commandment. He has a lot of things that he kept. The statutes, he was a feast keeper. He was a keeper of the daily on the altar. Daily. He was killing the lambs, eating the bread and wine. If you are Abraham's seed, you should do the works of Abraham. And, right?
Says the Apostle James, faith, if it hath not works,
Right, is dead, being alone. So we might be walking around with faith which is dead. Where are the works? And the works that God is looking for are not those ones that are just giving people who are hungry and whatever. And those are okay, they're okay. Keep going. But there are works that God is looking for. Abraham's works.
Yeah.
And
John, who dwells so fully upon love, tells us that this is the love of God,
Right.
that we keep his commandments.
right. Go to the same one in page 144. And which are the Abraham's work? Which one is Abraham's work of obedience to follow what God has? What should I do as a Christian? Go to from every home.
From every Christian home,
Right?
a holy light should shine forth.
Right?
Love should be revealed in action.
Right?
It should flow out in all home intercourse, showing itself in thoughtful kindness, in gentle and selfish courtesy. There are homes where this principle is carried out.
Right?
Homes where God is worshipped.
Right.
And truest love reigns.
Right?
From these homes,
Morning and evening
prayer
should be there.
ascends to God as sweet
If
incense.
there is a Christian home, it should be found with this morning and evening, like it was with Abraham.
Amen.
And
From these homes, morning and evening, prayer ascends to God as sweet incense.
right,
And his mercies and blessings descend upon the suppliants like the morning dew.
right. There are homes where this principle is carried out. Sister White said that, right? Let's hear Testimonies for the Church, volume 7, page 44. We want to find out whether us as Christians, are we supposed to keep the daily? Morning and evening, we should have the faith of Abraham. There are homes where this principle is carried out, where God visits at the 3rd hour and the 9th hour. So the homes,
So the homes of Christians should be lights in the world.
Right. You see, when your home now is a light in the world, to brighten the whole world, isn't it? And the light coming from your home is only when you practice this principle.
Amen.
And so the homes of Christians, yeah?
Should be lights in the world.
Right?
From them, morning and evening.
Morning and
prayer
evening should be there.
ascend
Don't
to
tell
God's
us
sweet
your
incense.
home is a light in the world when this principle is not there. And say, oh, my home, God, if someone was saying he sees even angels in his home. Then I said, where's the daily? Where's the daily? No daily, no angel. Did you see Gabriel?
Yes.
He came to Daniel at the time of the daily.
Yes.
No daily, no angel. Because maybe it could be the other gentleman's angels. There is another gentleman with angels which come anytime.
Yes.
But God's angels, there's appointed time. And,
So the homes of Christians should be lights in the world. From them, morning and evening, prayer should ascend to God as sweet incense.
right?
And as the morning dew, his mercies and blessings will descend upon the supplier.
Right? Fathers,
Fathers and mothers, each morning and evening,
right? Gather your children around.
and in humble supplication, lift the heart to God for help.
Amen. There are homes where this principle is carried out, where the angel will come at the 3rd hour and 9th hour.
Amen.
Don't tell us there is someone coming when there is no principle, this one. Because even in the Bible, they came to Daniel at that time. They came to Cornelius at that time. They came to Zachariah, the father of John the Baptist at the time. If you want, go and read as a novel, Luke chapter 3, and you see it was the time of offering the incense. The angel came and introduced that Elizabeth is going to have a baby with John the Baptist. So which time do you keep so that you can prove you also see these angels? Or you can prove you are a best friend to God. Which are those times?
Yeah.
Because the prophets of Baal had no time.
No.
They were crying all day and lancing themselves until the blood gushed out. Go and see. And Elijah was mocking them. Cry aloud. Prepare adventure. He's pursuing a journey or he's asleep. Wake him up. Because they had no time. But if you have no time, these times are not there. The daily is not there. When it's supposed to be back from 1844, where is it? Yeah. That's the job for the Elijah to replace them. Amen. Those who will follow will be fitted for the missions above. Amen. Page 43, in every family. Page 43. In every family.
In every family,
right?
There should be a fixed time for morning and evening worship.
Did you hear that? This is the daily with us. In every family, there should be a fixed time. Which are these fixed time? The 3rd hour and the 9th hour. Huh? Right? Even when you go to work, there are prayer rooms. God bless the companies with prayer rooms.
Yes.
Because people have their 3rd hour and 9th hour to talk to God. Yeah? Even the students who are going to school, they are allowed to go and pray. It's prayer time. It's my time. Yeah? In the morning, Lord, in the morning, in the evening, Zuarangu muponesi kuno penya apomur. I say the daily with us. Is this time also a part of our faith? Let's go to MYP, Messages to Young People, page 342, the hour of prayer.
The hour of prayer should not be neglected for any.
Which are the hours of prayer? 3rd hour, 9th hour. Should not be neglected for any consideration. Whether there is a visitor who come and that particular time should join in. You can't say, because there's a visitor, let me postpone. No. Whether Whether you are in a funeral, when the hour of prayer arrives, show God. I've seen people who observe these hours. Even when they are in a journey, they park their cars and start praying.
Amen.
I've seen even in homes, when you go, you find someone in the time of prayer, they are praying, they are talking to their God. It should be respected. And God expects them. He counts those mornings and evenings. And if you miss them, you have missed your salvation. Should not be neglected. Do not
talk and amuse yourselves until all are too weary to enjoy the season of devotion. To do this is to present to God a lame offering. At an early hour of the evening, when we can pray unhurriedly and understandingly, we should present our supplications and raise our voices in happy, grateful praise.
Amen. That's the 9th hour. Enjoy the 9th hour because God will be there. Yeah, some will say we are in different countries, so we don't know how to calculate. Don't worry. If you don't know how to calculate, inbox BSM TV. BSM TV will calculate it for you in your zone.
Amen.
BSM TV can calculate for anyone in any nation.
Amen.
So that you come up with your 3rd hour and your 9th hour.
Amen.
Talk to your God.
Amen.
Enjoy His presence in your 9th hour and your 3rd hour.
Amen.
They are not the same because the world is round. So each time in a zone, there is a 3rd hour for that zone. There is a 9th hour for that zone. I told you how to calculate it. If you can't have, mathematics is not a fun for everyone. But the SMTV can calculate for you. Huh? So that you enjoy your worship with God.
Amen.
Yeah? Inbox. We have a good inbox there. Page, Patrick's and Prophets, page 353. The daily in our time, the hours appointed for the morning and evening.
The hours appointed for the morning and the evening sacrifice
Right?
were regarded as sacred, and they came to be observed as the set time for worship throughout the Jewish nation.
Right. Go to in this custom, in the next paragraph.
Okay.
At the
In
bottom.
this custom, Christians have an example of morning and evening prayer.
Right?
While God
Who are the Christians now? Us. Does the daily pertain also to us? Yes. We have an example of the 3rd hour and 9th hour.
In this custom, Christians have an example for morning and evening prayer. While God condemns a mere round of ceremonies without the spirit of worship, He looks with great pleasure upon those who love Him, bowing morning and evening, to seek pardon for sins committed and to present their requests for needed blessings.
God condemns a mere round of ceremonies. Morning prayer, morning Sabbath school, song service, divine service, evening vespers. These 2 hours are not there. He condemns that. But He looks with pleasure to those who, when the time comes, bowing morning and evening to seek needed blessings.
Amen.
Testimonies for the Church, Volume 4, page 615. I'm giving evidence from the Spirit of Prophecy, isn't it?
Yes.
Lest we say the Bible are new dispensation, old dispensation. Order. 615,
40,
morning and evening,
46.
volume 4, page 615. Morning and evening.
Morning and evening, your earnest prayers should ascend to God for His blessing and guidance.
In those times, morning and evening. So when the Bible is saying morning and evening, you know now what time they mean. The hour of prayer, the 3rd hour, and the 9th hour. That's what is called morning and evening. Right? Page 354, PP. I'm just giving evidence, isn't it? The rest you can read on your own. The most important part of the day.
The most important part of the daily ministration was the service performed in behalf of individuals.
Right. The most important part of the daily was the service performed in behalf of individuals.
The repentant sinner brought his offering to the door of the tabernacle.
That's what they did.
And placing his hand upon the victim's head, confessed his sins, thus in figure transferring them from himself to the innocent
That's the most important part. The devil does not want these times in our lives because he wants us to live and forget we sinned. And the sins continue to pile up so that you don't even know them and don't even ask for them. But in the morning, when you remember your sin, you have the third hour. And the whole day you are waiting up to 3 o'clock in the evening, which is the 9th hour. You also remember what you have done in between, isn't it? Yes. And this is a way of you getting sanctified. Yeah? And such was the work.
Such was the work that went on day by day throughout the year.
Right.
The sins of...
This is what they did in the previous dispensation. What about us in the new dispensation? That's the work we have to do. All we have to avoid is the animal sacrifice. But the rest are still binding, isn't it? We can go on and on. So next week we'll start on the daily involving us as Christians. What is God expecting? So that when we enjoy our worship, we worship God to the fullest and our prayers are a sweet savor in the sight of God. Amen. May God bless the lesson.
Amen.